Welcome to the Granite Mountain Movie Club. Today we are discussing Project Hail Mary. Also, check out the show sponsor, exitgroup.us. Please enjoy the show.
Hey Arturo, welcome. How you doing?
Good. You know, we're recording in the morning, which we don't usually do, but it's bright and early, and bushy-tailed and bright-eyed, ready to get to work talking about this movie. It's a very wholesome movie. Feels like a good movie to talk about in the morning. Not like some of these dark movies we do.
Yeah. Speaking of not being a dark movie, I was wondering, it's kind of a white movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously there's a fair bit of racial diversity, but the smaller parts, like you normally would see.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like when the studios, I feel like they know you got to get like a white star to lead the movie to put it on his back, and you can fill in the. It's like at a basketball team when you got the one guy and you surround him with shooters. You can surround him with the black cop sidekick or the stray diversity parts. But yeah, it's a pretty.
Yeah.
And more to the point, it's a very the different like white ethnicities, the differences between them are also central to it, which isn't exactly what people mean when they say it's a white movie, but like because there's Grace, he's the American, then you've got like the what is this German woman who's sort of his foil, and you've got some Russians in there too, so it's shows how much diversity the white race has.
Yeah. It's basically like one person movie anyway. After about the halfway point, it's like one person. But
true. I didn't look it up. Who the guy who voiced the alien? I guess maybe we were getting into it, talking to it without summing up the plot first. But the guy who did the alien, was he? At different times he sounded like vaguely Asian to me, but then he just kind of sounded like he was doing a nerd voice. So I couldn't really tell.
Yeah. I think he's a white guy. I saw that. I think he's the same puppeteer. One of the main puppet. They had like 5 puppeteers, I think, for Rocky, but I think he's one of the puppeteers. Okay, yeah. Let's summarize this movie. Here's I'm halfway through the book. I decided to read the book as well after seeing it, just to I don't know, just to close the loop, I guess. And I guess part of reading the book is that like we'd been talking to Degree Studies, and he was he really didn't like the writing of Andy Weir, and I'm not a huge reader, so I hadn't read this in advance, and I don't read a lot, so I'm not super qualified to talk about this, but I kind of wanted to see like what he meant by the writing style, and it's obnoxious. He writes in a very obnoxious way, like. He's good at ideas. I think he has novel ideas, like sci-fi, which kind of matters a lot in sci-fi, I think. And so he has them. They're there, and he can move the story along. He just has these. He puts himself into the characters in a very annoying way. So anyway, I'm partway through the book. So let's summarize this thing. There is a cool science guy. He teaches science at school.
Yeah, he was going to be, he was a PhD, but then, he had to leave his program because of his controversial ideas, which have nothing to do with human biodiversity. Just
he's not an HBD researcher. No, he
so now he's teaching at middle school science, even though he was a molecular biologist.
Yeah, so he's one of these. We like these guys in movies, right? These guys who are like living below their station.
Yeah.
The secret, the hidden genius sort of thing. So he's this great science mind, but he's just teaching middle school, and the government comes to him and they're like, "Hey, we got a problem, and we think you could help." And he's like, "How do you even know about me?" And they're like, "We found the weird paper you wrote, and that got you in trouble with all the other academics. We know that you're a bright guy." So he goes, there's this big project. They've discovered that there's this, what would you even call it? Like an entity in space? Like
yeah, it's like a microorganism.
A microorganism, yeah, that is eating, like photons? Like it's eating the light from the sun. It's eating the sun, basically.
Yeah. Well, because it's literally like they're growing on the sun itself. So it basically is eating it.
Yeah, and it's dimming the sun noticeably. Like, so this is not a global warming movie; it's a global cooling movie. And what they say in the movie is, it's like, hey, in 30 years, the average Earth temperature is going to be like 15 degrees colder. Everyone's, a third of the world's going to die.
Yeah, I thought about that. It's interesting, even sort of setting aside what you might call the political angle, or like whether someone thinks that human caused global warming is like global cooling is just better for a movie. Like it sounds more catastrophic. I guess that's the problem with people who want people to take global warming seriously. Like it's more abstract, or like things getting hotter. Like you can sort of imagine how that would make things. With global cooling, it's like, oh, all the crops die and we starve. Like that's just a much more immediate sort of danger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just feel like global cooling is a more cinematic, catastrophic outcome.
Yeah, like that early Jake Gyllenhaal movie where the Earth freezes or something.
The Day After Tomorrow?
Day After Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they're like, we need your help figuring out what's going on with this thing, and you know a lot about microorganisms and physics, so we need your help. And then eventually they're gonna send a crew into space to like do some research to figure it, because I guess there's a star somewhere else that's like not affected by this material, which they call astrophage, which is a good term,
Yeah.
And the Gosling character he's not supposed to go on that trip, but then like some of the people who are supposed to go die, and they strong arm him into going. And we'll do spoiler free until like 20-30 minutes, but so then he has to go now. He's the guy on the Project Hail Mary ship. So that's kind of the premise of the movie. He's got to go figure out, how do we stop this astrophage. So did I do a good job?
Pretty much, yeah. That's although I will say, I don't know how is the book structured without, like, how the movie is structured and where it's sort of like chops up a lot of the first half of that into flashbacks. Is the book more of a linear structure?
So I think the book and the movie are the same this way, and I think that's because a big part of this is it's also like a memory. It's like memento.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I wasn't sure if that was like something that was like contrived for the movie, or if it was
that's part of the book too. Is so when you, at one point, our protagonist like wakes up in the ship and he doesn't really know who he is, and because he's been in like cryosleep or some sort of managed coma, and that's in the book too. So same deal, and he has to like piece back together who he is. So now that we've got it summarized, and we'll do our best to not do like spoilers for a while, what did you think of it?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I mean, there are I could like pick some nits, I suppose. But overall, I enjoyed it. I mean, I came out of the theater feeling like it would be a movie that would be pretty hard to like strongly dislike. Although I guess I'm being proven wrong by some of our Confederates. But I mean, I had Gosling is very charming. He's great. I mean, how old is he now? It really is amazing
he's like mid-40s maybe.
It really is amazing how ageless you can be in Hollywood now. I mean, not that he looks like young per se, but you just kind of he can probably keep going at this clip for another at least 5 years, 10 years.
He's 40. He's 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only 45. Yeah, he's got so many and he seems like one of these guys who's just like invested in the work. He likes to do it. And so it's like he's going to be
I mean, apparently
he's got a lot of big movies ahead of him.
Yeah, I think especially now cuz apparently for a few years from like after I guess First Man, they were talking with this on The Big Picture. He took a few years, he didn't make as many movies, and then he sort of came back, and after Barbie, he's blew up, and it's sort of he's been back on the top since then, and I imagine he's going to keep this going for a while. I mean, he really is like, I was thinking about it. I guess he's obviously a huge star, and he's obviously a huge fixture in the right wing Twitter psychosphere. But like, who's is he? He honestly might be like what other stars are as big as him right now?
It's funny, actually. You mentioned The Big Picture, which, I will offer my curses to The Big Picture. It's one of those Ringer podcasts, which I did used to kind of like, but the woman on that show is too much for me. Anyway, another Ringer podcast I listened to last night, which is more about the business side of Hollywood. and they were doing their little ranking, like who are the best stars, you know?
Yeah.
And one of the guys, and these are both like industry journalists who cover like the actual, you know, sales and stuff of these movies and the deals. And one of the guys said until this movie, he wouldn't have even had Gosling in the top 10. He says this movie puts Gosling around 5 or 6. The other host of the show was saying he had Gosling at like 2 or 3. They both unanimously put it at their top, which I found funny, was Michael B. Jordan, which, I mean, he has done a lot of these high revenue movies, but they're kind of, it's like they're Marvel movies. I'm not sure he gets credit for that, but they had MBJ at the top.
I mean, he did just win the Oscar, so that even if we don't think necessarily he deserved to win, that it's hard to argue against that. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I might still have Gosling over, because the thing with Jordan is all his movies have been with Coogler, so it's almost like open one without Coogler, and we'll talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or open. Yeah, I mean,
because Sinners is sort of, I mean, it is like in function, it kind of has like the soul of a Marvel movie, but it is an original idea, at least, you know, like it wasn't guaranteed that people would give a shit about the Black Vampire movie. So I at least give them credit for like, that's better. That's different than just like Black Panther or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't even the star of that one. Sorry to cut you off. Black Panther,
no, fine. In terms of like star power, though, I mean, I would have to put Gosling above him. I mean, if I think about just normal people that I know, like they all know who Ryan Gosling is. A lot of them would not even know who Michael B. Jordan is.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's been doing Gosling. I mean, they've actually, well, I guess, really, they've both been in the industry for like 20 years now, at least, right? Like, but Gosling's just been in so many movies. Like, he's been working for so long, and, you know, big movies. I mean, I honestly, like, this is a bit hyperbolic probably, but I honestly think he's like this generation's like he's on the tier of like a, maybe not in stature, because like it's hard to be as big a star as you could be in the 20th century, but he's almost like our generation's like Nicholson or Leo. You know, like I really think he's that he's got that big of a psychic space, and he can actually open a movie. Like because I mean, you know, if you like last year, you would have been like, is it even possible for a star to open a movie except maybe Leo? People were saying things like that. You know, it's like, because obviously you look at Sydney Sweeney, like she's got hits, but then some of her movies are total flops, or even just like small movies that are not even intended to be. Or you look at like Chalamet, like obviously Chalamet is a pretty big star, although I would just have Gosling above him now. But like, I don't know. I feel like Gosling's almost in like his own stratosphere at this point in time. Yeah,
and I guess there is some difference between like bankability, box office, and then also star power, and in that domain, I would still, you know, Gosling is right up there because like I say, people actually know who he is.
Yeah, and like that's all of that. You know, some people may not care as much about the industry side of it, but like I feel like that's important to bring up here, because like the entire movie does rest on like the both as a movie and as like a box office, it rests on the potential of like people wanting to spend like 2.5 hours basically, you know, with this guy almost entirely, right? And like they picked the right guy. Like I don't think this movie would have worked with anyone else.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. That's kind of my bigger take, which is tied into like sort of this. Well, actually, real quick before I get into that, anyone else? So you think if Chalamet is in this role, you think he could do it? Like, I think it would work. I think he could do it. Would it work?
I think it would be an enjoyable movie, but like, I don't think it would have hit this hard. I mean, like, if anything, Chalamet, I mean, people can act like they were sort of annoyed by the whole Marty Supreme thing, but like that movie works because he has that sort of like annoying quality, right? Like he's almost like you want to dislike him because he's so beautiful and he's so successful and he's not even 30. With Gosling is like obviously an attractive man, a successful man, but there's just something warmer about him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's
like Chalamet is almost like you can imagine him in this movie as like maybe he's like a side character or something.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody's with the guy. And like, I don't know, maybe in like 10 years, because it also sort of depends on, well, while he doesn't look old, he looks like ageist in that Hollywood way. It almost so does sort of matter that like you can believe him as like a guy who's already like the first thing he tried in his life like failed, and now he's just like a high school teacher. Like Chalamet isn't old enough yet to seem like he's experienced failure, which maybe that's why they didn't want to give him the Oscar yet.
Yeah. Well, I should point out that that something warmer that you're seeing in Ryan Gosling is his Latter-day Saint heritage.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, of course I had to bring that up because it's there's people on the timeline who are counter signaling Project Hail Mary, which I think, that's just a fundamentally anti-Mormon endeavor.
Yeah,
this is a white movie. This is a Mormon movie. Anyway, I had to get that in.
No,
there.
But you are right. That is something that is probably linked to his.
Yes, even more broadly, because it's like Chalamet. I mean, his name is Chalamet, so it's like a French name. I think he is Jewish, right? Like he
is, yeah.
And so he kind of has a more European Jewish look to him, and he's considered beautiful, but he's also looks it looks ethnic in a sense, whereas Gosling is just like, oh, it's like the Prince of the Anglos, like,
yeah.
And his name means baby goose. So
yeah, and here he's like, and to go back to what I was saying with the nationality, is like this movie, it's important that he's the American, it's like he's in all these rooms with all of these, this like international coterie of scientists, in front of. And he's up there with like the Chinese guy and the Russian woman, and he's like our emissary of like what we might call like the reasons. Like there are obviously a lot of reasons that people dislike Americans. Some of them merited, maybe some of them not, but like the reasons that people like find Americans likable are like embodied in his character. Like he's kind of silly. Yeah. He kind of is maybe doesn't take certain things seriously, but like he's meritorious. Like he knows what he's doing. He can get things done. He can come up with unorthodox solutions, things that might even seem sort of cheap, like with the diorama he makes. And then like when the chips are down, even if he is maybe not like, the strong silence type, even if he has his moments of cowardice, like when the chips are down, like the woman says, she knew that he could do it. So I guess it is important that he is such a, all-American, even if he's Canadian.
Yeah. So there's this thing I did want to, well, yeah, that's another thing. Being Canadian, but Mormon, it's, that's American. We count those.
Yes, exactly.
So what I was going to say though is that yes, I think this only works because it's him, and I think one of the biggest things about this movie so far is the biggest questions is like, is it Reddit? And it is Reddit. It's definitely Reddit. We can't get around that. And what was that thing? I think you sent it.
I can't remember.
Well, someone said something like,
"Oh, it was the director saying that the movie passed the Neil deGrasse Tyson test of like scientific realisticness or whatever."
Yeah, someone tweeted. It was a good tweet. They were just like, "I've been arguing for a week that this movie is not Reddit, and then these guys just go and do this." Like, so yes, it's Reddit, but so a couple notes on being Reddit, on the nature of being Reddit, like. I think that's a great pejorative to call something Reddit, but a lot of what like makes Reddit bad is not necessarily the like things that they're into. Like they're into like, heckin' wholesome science and doggos and meal prep, like doing your Sunday night meal prep and counting macros and like just sort of this very like spreadsheet approach to life, but also this like sort of performative wholesome stuff. And I guess it's the performative side that it is bothersome, but a lot of the stuff they're into is like directionally fine or good. It's just the way they make it into like a lifestyle that's obnoxious. And then the bigger problem is that how they like couple their interests with their kind of awful like worldview, which is at times like misanthropic and like hateful toward just like normalcy.
Yeah, that's true. There's almost like I mean, how much does like Reddit overlap with just the general like tech worldview? Would you say?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I mean, a lot of it
there are like theater kid Reddit people who are not like tech-ish.
Yeah.
And then, you'll find, but there's a big nebulous, and to get sort of sociological with it, I guess, I do feel like there's a sort of schism, like a political schism almost, like because there are some tech people who like in the last 5 years have suddenly discovered like that they're right wing or whatever, I mean, Elon, not even just Elon, but then even just sort of maybe like more, I don't know, other figures And then then there are some who are like still more liberal, and like a lot of those are the ones who are not less tech oriented, like people who are into, I don't know, like polyamory or whatever, but they're not like, I don't know. But then again, a lot of them are actually interested. Does that make sense? So I do feel like this movie, in its like, I wouldn't say maybe not exactly apoliticalness, but in its like sort of lack of, overt like sort of like left wing misanthropy, like a lot of like the most annoying qualities of Reddit are sort of limited. And then packaging in the person of Gosling, who just like seems so likable, helps. Which isn't to say that it isn't. Like, it doesn't still have that. Like, I don't know, because part of it is like, yes, certain elements of like the sincerity of it do annoy me. I'm, I guess, cynical in that way, but like I choose to give the movie some grace in that, or like, it's like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong for finding this annoying. Maybe the movie's fine to find this charming. Like it opens up a space where you can like allow yourself to enjoy it, even if it does in another context, like these quirks would be like extremely annoying.
Yeah. Reddit's funny. I mean, it's sort of built into the platform, just the idea of like upvoting and downvoting. It's, you ensure that like any community is eventually going to be heavily ruled by like consensus seeking type personalities, which like to an extent is natural and is just going to happen. Like they're going to form these like majorities or like small or large minorities or something that kind of dominate everything. And that's sort of built into the whole thing. Yeah. So basically my thing is just that a lot of Redditism is not necessarily the thing is bad, but just the way they take it too far, or they make it seem like more than it is. And then, but Gosling here, you can be a little Reddit when you're him, when you're like that. So
exactly. And like putting it into a movie, it's actually interesting because this, obviously this movie, it was kind of grouped in with stuff like Ready Player One or The Martian. And what's interesting about all of those movies really is that like it's about like, it is sort of like about like a lone figure who's like, I mean, in this case, he's the sort of, like battling orthodoxy. But in those other movies, maybe not necessarily, but like it's almost embodied in this figure whose independence allows the audience like sort of a measure of like wish fulfillment through them. Like I could be him, obviously adjacent to, but not exactly like the literally him phenomenon. And that's interesting because that goes against the sort of like if anything, Redditors would be the people who are like tearing down independent thought. I mean, just by virtue of the structure of the website. So it's almost like through this inversion, it allows like it to be the opposite of Reddit in structure, even if like all the sort of like dialogue is extremely Reddit and all the quirks are like, it's still a very, does it make sense? Like, it appeals to people's better natures. Even if, again, like Redditors would be more likely to be like some UN bureaucrat telling you why you can't do something. At least it allows them to imagine that they're better than they really are.
Yeah. And I think part of what causes this, oh, sorry, I'm getting a call. Oh, never mind. I can ignore this call. The part of what people are responding to as well with like the Reddit criticism, part of what they're pointing out is just that it's kid friendly. That it's like, you could take. I took a 9-year-old to see this, and it's too long to take anyone younger than maybe 8 or 9. But you could take even younger kids. It's really not. It's not too scary or anything. So I want to move on from that though, but what did you think about I noticed some Christian symbolism throughout the movie. I'm wondering what you noticed and like to the degree to which that might be intentional. We talked about like Andy Weir. We couldn't find any evidence that he had any that belief personally, but I'm wondering what you picked up on.
Well, I mean, first and most obviously, the guy's name is Grace. I mean, that it's called Project Hail Mary, that he sort of sacrifices himself, if maybe not, that he has, although it's interesting, you could say he has like, he's sort of forced into it. I mean, like they didn't have to put Jesus into a coma to get him on the cross, but I mean, yeah, just sort of stuff like that. That's sort of amorphous. I mean, the thing is like that stuff is so baked into just like the Western literature that like stories about like sacrifice are necessarily inflected with Christian themes. So I mean, other than the sort of big stuff like that, I can't think of anything specific, but I mean, just generally like it is I mean, wasn't the other was his ship? Was his ship shaped like a cross? I can't remember.
The ship is kind of a cross. It's basically a cross, and then that's what they will do. In these scenarios, they'll make it like not, but it is a cross. But they'll make it like a little bit of a weak looking cross, like not an overt Christian cross, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so the title of the movie is a indirect. It's sort of a sports reference, but by way of a religious reference. And then his name is Grace, as you pointed out. He literally he dies, but he goes into cryo sleep or whatever. Basically, dies on a cross, which is the ship.
Well, and also like by going, he's basically like sacrificing his life. Like even if he doesn't die, even if he like wakes up on the other side, he'll still never come back.
Yeah, and it's for mankind. Dies on behalf of mankind. I mean, he's essentially dying, like, setting himself up to die on this trip. And then another kind of funny aspect, and maybe I guess this will be kind of where the spoilers start. So I'll cut it off here for this. I'll probably paywall here, and this is also where the spoilers will start to come out. But he goes on the ship